the sense of sort of gobsmacked wonder and awe that we seem to experience when we come across, well, either through experience or through a sort of mental experience and through theorization, that we come across when we're confronted with the big facts of the universe, how the cosmos was put together at the Big Bang, or how the river out of Eden produced life on Earth. These big pictures, that feeling which accompanies that, which we tend to think of as kind of analogous to religious feeling, seems to be a product of the scale of the explanatory system, the scale of that which is being bound in that religious, naturalistic explanation. And here I'm reminded again that the roots of the word religion are in the idea of being bound together again. So it seems the larger the explanation, the more it is encompassed within that explanation, the more wonderment, if you like, or awe, or the more gobsmacked we are, I suppose, really, by that. We seem to have this sense of an all-encompassing knowledge, a grasp of the category of all categories, if you like, or a glimpse at the ground of all being. Those kind of suggestions that the very framework that supports the immense differences that appear on the surface of experience has been glimpsed, and so the explanatory power is huge, and one's feelings are in scale with the size of that explanatory power, the size of the explanation. It may be that smaller scale bindings, if you like, smaller scale understandings produce related feelings, but smaller scale feelings. I'm reminded of that fantastic moment, which is sometimes called the aha moment in creativity studies, or in just in puzzle solving, that kind of thing, problem solving. When you look at an ambiguous figure, for example, and you don't quite see what it is. There's quite a famous one of what appears to be either an old lady or a young girl. You can see it one way or you can see it the other, and typically when I show it to people or look at it myself, you can see one very clearly and you can't see the other, and then suddenly the other one kind of pops out, the other phase of the ambiguous figure pops out at you, and you get this small feeling of wonder, if that's the right word. A small pleasure rolls over you when suddenly this set of shapes somehow resolves into a figure that one can recognize. It feels a little. Is that religion written small? It's something like, it feels to me that there's some relationship between those two feelings, that something is being bound on a much smaller scale, and the feeling of the aha moment and the pleasures associated with aha is a kind of small version of the gobsmacking aha that one gets by glimpsing the boundaries of the universe itself. And perhaps even on a smaller scale than that, when I'm walking down the street and I see somebody walking towards me from a distance, initially they're a stranger, but there's a certain point, before I can see their face, it's usually the movements in their body which capture me first. There's a certain point when, quite often, when that person comes to a certain distance, I recognize them, I recognize them, and I know who they are. And again, that there's a moment of pleasure, a moment of felt understanding at that moment when I recognize them, which goes beyond simply the fact that it's somebody I know. It's the act of recognizing itself which brings that pleasure, or brings that, it's emotionally tagged response, I'd say pleasure. And again, that seems to be like a small version of this binding together phenomenon. I wouldn't call it religious. I wouldn't call it a moment of aha even. It's just recognition. But but something that's disparate, something that's unknown and fragmented has been brought into my consciousness. The part of my mental data bank, shimmering database of knowledge that I have concerning people. Part of that has been linked up to this stranger walking towards me, and the linking of the person that I am familiar with in my database and the person out there has formed a fusion, and I've got a little buzz from that. So again, there just seems to be a scalar difference between those phenomena, and maybe even smaller than that. I mean, I'm looking around myself right now, and it's a fantastic day here, I have to say. There's a bit of frost on the ground, it's beautiful. I'm looking around, and although I'm not thinking, I recognise that as a tree, I recognise this as a fence, I recognise this as a dog, and that as another dog. I'm not consciously thinking those things. I am perceiving these things, really unproblematically. I'm seeing the world as whole. Somehow, I'm having a unified experience of the world, and it is quite pleasurable actually today. But it's not something I would normally comment on. It's just normal consciousness, really. I'm just having this normal moment of conscious awareness, and yet that moment of conscious awareness is an act of binding. Binding again. All these things around me are, in a sense, broken elements of perception. Fragments of light coming in through my eyes and being spread out across the various parts of my brain. And yet somehow, of course, I don't experience it broken in that way. I experience it as bound. And of course, the sounds of the birds and the sounds of the cars in the distance are intimately bound up with that. They're not broken and experienced separately. And the freezing cold on my left hand as I'm holding this camera is also part of the overall picture. So it's a kind of religious, naturalistic experience I'm having, but I would hesitate to use that term, religion, in this context, even though it's clearly what's happening. These things are being bound together again in the ligature of consciousness.